This might be the easiest transition I've had yet. Let me know if you see me. Did it work?
I can't find you.
It says I'm live, which is a good thing.
Oh, here we go.
Oh, I see 3 people.
There you
Hi! Woohoo! Easiest transition ever to get onto this thing. I'm so happy. Hello, everybody. Thanks for hopping on. Give a minute before we start. Maybe, right? Yeah. Let a couple more people join. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Leave it in the comments. I always like to know where people are from. It's fun. I'm like, you get to learn to, you get to connect with a lot of people in a different way these days. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining.
James Helton.
Yay. Hi, James.
Hi, James Helton. All right, dear. 101.
101. All right, let's get it rolling. Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining me, Jessica Bartolucci, on this beautiful Monday. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are from in this world. I am super excited today to be bringing to you trending fall color with Keune. So today we're going to navigate sort of how we can get a little bit of inspiration for ourselves as well as for our guests behind the chair in the salon. Going into fall colors because I feel like you're always, I mean, myself, I feel like sometimes I just get stuck in the same color routine in the same season. So it's nice to kind of step out and shift into something a little bit different. On the phone, I have Miss Jessica Mills. She is Vice President of Education and Shows. So if you have any questions or comments, or if you want to leave it in the comments, like what you would love to see from us for more education going forward, leave it in the comments and Jessica will help to filter all of that to me. So say hi to Jessica, everyone. Jessica and Jessica. So without further ado, I'll kind of show you guys, I have 2 benchmarks. This Emma here, and I'm hoping that you guys can kind of see her color in this ring light here. So this Emma here, I applied with a color melting technique. Personally, behind the chair, what I'm really finding is a lot of my guests are going into more of a saturated end, a little bit brighter. Of course, we have that like either dynamic or soft money piece going on. And then definitely something that's just a little bit more, I guess, outgrown in the rooted area. So for her, I utilized our Keune Semi 6.43 with clear, and that was applied on damp towel dried hair, just because I wanted to give myself a shift into a level 7. And then on the ends, I actually had pre-lightened her with our Tinta 2000, and then on top of that, I had dried it. And I had glossed her over with our color chameleon, and this was with our clear and our yellow. So I had 60 grams of clear to 4 grams of yellow. So I'm hoping that this translates really nice throughout this ring light, but I'll be posting photos of her as well on social media so you guys can get a better vibe for her color. And then over here, I did a little bit of a color blocking technique because as well with kind of like soft natural colors, I mean, we are definitely seeing like a shift into like the 90s vibe. And I think in clothes, kind of like in music and just different culture, I'm definitely noticing it's going more 90s than ever. So with her, this Emma, we just did a little bit of a color blocking technique just to showcase a little bit more of that texture inside of her French bob. So I call her my French press because cold brew coffee is kind of a big like hit in fall. Everyone's like, ooh, I want to have like caramel or coffee bits. So I was like, French bob, French press, it works, right? Makes it exciting. So talking about inspiration, something that I always love to do is just to make myself a mood board. So a mood board can look like multiple things, right? For this, I just kind of put up inspiration, which is the process of being mentally stimulated by doing something creative, which is something that, obviously we get to do behind the chair. And if we're not currently behind the chair, hopefully this is something that can just keep your creative juices flowing and your inspiration going. So I just kind of like to make mood boards for the different seasons ahead. So in this one, I actually just kind of crafted out a couple of magazines, cut out colors that made me feel like it was fall. And it definitely like resets my mind from summer colors into the shift of fall colors. And I think, you know, for me personally, and definitely leave it in the comments like what you guys are seeing behind the chair and what your guests are also asking for. But I'm definitely noticing a shift from like those grays and those silvers to even like blondes wanting a little bit like more of like a yellow or a golden hue to it, even if it's not a very intense copper color. I'm definitely noticing that. So it definitely makes my heart happy to be adding warmth back into the hair. So you know, you can do like a Pinterest board, Instagram on your phone. I kind of like to have like a hard copy, and then if I'm ever anywhere, I'll just like rip and tear like out of the magazines, and then I have somewhere to like inspire me. Keep it at the salon, at your home, next to your bed when you wake up, so you can see it every day. But whatever works for you. That's just something that I really love to do. Something else that I love to do is I love to gravitate to the Pantone colors. So I love to decorate like interior, and I think that definitely translates into hair as well. So what I love to do is I love to look at the color trend report from Pantone for like fall winter fashion going forward. And it's kind of crazy because you see the colors and you're like, all right, I'm going to put that on a wall, or that's great in the color of a fabric, but how can we translate that into hair and make that super beautiful as well? So I just kind of like grabbed certain colors. I was like, I could see these being in hair. And then I like to just develop my own little formulation for them. There are probably way more ways to get to these colors than how I formulated them, but I think it's super fun just to kind of like share that as well. So this first color up here, this is called Fired Brick, which I thought it was really beautiful. There's also another color right next to it, and it's called Burnt Henna. And they really do sort of look similar, but I think, as is true in reds, one looks a little bit more orange and one looks a little bit more of that like burnt color. So you'll see for that Fire Brick here, if you guys can see these, I did one swatch on a level 9 and one swatch on a level 7. And what I did is I utilized semi 6.66 and 6.53 to get these tones in the hair. What I like about doing these swatches too is you can keep these like next to your station, and if a guest is like, hey, I want a red, but I don't know what kind of red I want, or if they say that they want a certain color, you can kind of grab your inspiration from these as well. So for the Burnt Henna, it's definitely more of that red with a little bit of that warmth orange backing. So I kind of shifted utilizing our semi 8.66 and our 6.43. So I still utilize that 6.43, but hopefully you guys can see the difference there. That definitely brings in a little bit more of that orange hue onto those levels. Again, this one is on a level 9 and this one's on a level 7. And then this color was one of my favorites, actually. It's called Exuberance. So for me, I was just like, you know what? That's definitely going to be Color Chameleon, because Color Chameleon is our direct dye. And I was like, what speaks better for exuberance than a beautiful hue from Color Chameleon? So this is all equal parts orange, clear, and yellow. So definitely for those clients that want a little bit more like push and punch into their color. And then again, Peach Nougat, I really loved this one because I found that Peach Nougat was just a little bit of like a softer, like apricot sort of color. And I loved it because I went for our 9.04 in Tinta and our 9.15. And what I really loved about that was I find that this is really one of those perfect colors for guests who, you know, maybe they want to get a little bit of warmth, but too much warmth scares them. So by adding that 1, which is our ash, and a 5, which is mahogany, kind of cools that color out for them. So it's a really nice shift into like maybe those cooler colors into like a warmer tone for them. How are we doing out there so far? Any questions, Jess?
Great.
Good.
Yeah.
Cool.
Hey, Jess, where do you get your swatches
from? Oh, so actually that's a great question. So where do I get my swatches from? Amazon. I believe these ones are, it's called Rinbool, but there's a bunch of different ones on there. So if you literally on Amazon put like color swatches, that's where you'll get these from. And they have all different levels too. I can get a link and post it on my Instagram too if you guys would like.
That'd be great.
Cool. Sounds good. So without further ado, I'm getting a little bit more of that inspiration. I'd love to share with you guys the color melt technique that I utilized on Miss Emma here for a little bit more of a lioness color. So I don't know if anyone did leave a comment in the comment section or see what they're kind of finding in the chair, but I definitely am finding that even all of that like depth that we've been putting back into the hair, everyone wants a little bit more like brightness back again. So it is sort of like that ombre but softer, so that color melts. And I know personally I always sort of like struggled with just getting a really seamless blend while keeping dimension. So what excites me about this technique is that it's going to give you a quick application behind the chair, but it's going to provide a really impactful dimensional end result for you and your guest. And you can definitely customize it accordingly to, you know, what your client's end result is. So we'll start up here with the sectioning. With the sectioning, what I like to do is start in the front pieces here. So in the front pieces, I just like to take a nice small triangle up front, and where I'll find how far back to go is, you know, by, well, two things. One, I will take my comb, place it onto my client's head, and where my comb leaves her hair, that's where I know, just like finding where her perfect fringe is going to be, is where I'm going to go back to the point. So that's one way to do it. Another way to do it is just by having that consultation, because as we all know, the money piece is a big thing right now, especially in hair. Not everybody might want that huge dynamic money piece in the front, so that's something that I like to kind of like talk to my guests about. Like, do you want brightness in the front? Do you want it to like yell, talk, or whisper to you? So that's how chunky maybe you take that piece. So the whole front frame is very customizable to your guest. From there, what you'll see is I'll take from the lower recession of the head, so we have the high recession up here, so in that low recession here, and I will just kind of cut back into right onto the tip of the ear, just to have this beautiful little like triangular section. Now, you know, we might have a guest who has a lot more baby hairs in this area or more layering, so definitely how big this is going to be, again, is going to decipher. I like to kind of keep my side pieces and my front money piece around the same size. That way it's way more blended, and then you don't have like this huge chunky on the side and like too small up front, and it just gives you an overall more balanced end result. So from there, what I'll do is, if you can kind of see on my diagonal, my diagonal back sectioning here, I'll just kind of pretend like I'm going all the way down into the hair. And if you can see, if I follow that line of my comb here, is where I'm just going to end up at the V right at the neck here, and then coming back up. And if, again, you can kind of see it's almost like I just am not leaving my comb all around for her face framing. So after you have that sectioned out, back here, again, I'll just take the comb wherever that leaves the head. I'll just do a horseshoe and round this on off for the color melt, which I think is really simple. I mean, I guess really you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sections. And then in this back area, we'll kind of break this down as we're going in. Any questions so far? How are we feeling?
Good.
Good? Cool. Very cool. So I am curious, is anyone seeing any sort of trends, or has anyone said anything out there yet? No? Maybe? I like to know what's going on in the world.
We'd love to hear.
I know, I'd love to hear. So on Emma, what I'm going to be actually utilizing for her, because as we can tell, I wanted to use her because very rare is it, right, that we get a like just complete virgin application that sits in her chair, right? So typically we have some highlighting or foliage or balayage or color onto the hair already. So this is definitely something I think that's definitely like a real life experience. You'll see that she has her highlights and then she has her natural running through. So what I decided that I wanted to do for her end result is I want to help to lift out her natural, but I still want to keep a lot of warmth, and especially in those like fall colors that are very trending forward. You'll see the fall colors are typically warmer, right? So what I'm going to be utilizing is our Tinta 1032. So this is going to be our High Lift series. And this is going to help with the 1032, with the 3 being our gold. This is going to help keep a little bit of that natural warmth into her hair. And then the 2 is our pearl. So it's a very, very beautiful end result color. And I know that I'm going to kind of be lifting and toning this hair and giving myself to a kind of like not a raw undertone, but it'll help tone it out as I'm lifting her, so then I can apply what I want at the end. Cool. So now that I have that all nice and mixed up in there, And with the 1032, in the 1000 series for Tinta, what you will notice is that you will get about like 3 to 4 levels of lift if you're utilizing it on a level 7 or above hair, either with your 30 or 40 volume. So I kind of like, especially going into like fall colors and shifting, even if they are blonde, I kind of like to almost like say like clean up the blonde, if you will. But I might not always reach for my lightener. So I do like to reach for like the high lift series. Even like 2000 is a really beautiful one. That's what I utilized on the benchmark over there, just to keep that warmth in the hair and really soft, because I might not always need it to be like bright white. So I know that these colors are going to keep it nice and soft and a little bit of warmth in there for me. So from there, what we'll do is I'm going to give my mannequin a little bit of a lift here. So I don't want to go too flat, because if I end up going at more of a 0 degree, I'm going to get a really harsh line of like demarcation. And with this color melt, it's all about just adding super, super softness into the hair. So I'm just going to elevate my hair a little bit here. And I'm also going to stand to the side. So what I'm not going to do is pull this hair this way, because the direction is going to change when I put that down, right? So I'm going to lift this hair on up here, and I'm going to let my brush really like do the work for me. So hopefully you guys can see that all right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start really low, and I'm going to put my brush sort of on a diagonal here. And that's going to be a little bit more of my guideline on how to lighten up. I especially like doing this when I end up going into more of like high lifts and colors than with the lighteners, because I find that you're going to get that really beautiful blend into the hair when you work against the grain. But what I'm also creating is that dimensional impact. So this will all be either like a taproot or a shadow root maybe at the end that we can do. And then in the same regards, what I would do when this mannequin is, or my guest is already completed with her hair, is I would just go back through and, you know, tone or gloss the same way that I'm applying her lightener on here. Or maybe your canvas is already really great and prepped for the end result that they want. So this is just a really great way to add in, let's say, like a low light to the hair. So you'll see with that, going down, going a little bit against that grain there, just to soften that up, and you're going to get that beautiful natural blending, if you will. So from there, I'm just going to add my foil onto here, and I'm just going to use a really long foil and push that on up, so that way I don't have my ends onto my lightener or onto, onto like the root at all, to cause any sort of like bleed marks or anything like that. So same thing on the other side, walk through, give myself that elevation, let the brush do the work for me. So you'll see here that I have it on a diagonal, push that on up, and then I'll get that beautiful color blended on through to her ends. So definitely, if you guys haven't utilized the high lifts before, even to like lighten for the hair, I think it's definitely something fun to like break into. You know, it gives us another option other than like the lighteners to pick from as well. And I'm allowing my color choice to do the work for me, which is, I think, you know, part of working like smarter, not harder, as they say, right?
So Tara Wellman, hi Tara, she had a great comment. She said that she's been hearing butter blonde a lot lately.
Oh, butter blonde. I like that. That's really pretty. I can't say I haven't heard that one yet. I like butter blonde. I feel like butter blonde 9.31 would be really perfect in our semi with the gold and the ash. That's what I think for like butter blonde. Even the 1032 that we're using today. So from here, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to grab all of this hair from side to side on this section. What I'm really starting to notice with these color melts as well is you still have a lot of impactful dimension to it. So it almost looks like we're doing like a balayage, or it almost looks like you're doing like foils and foils and foils, except you're not. Like it is like the color melt, which is just, it was a wild concept for me. But the minute I started doing the colors like this, I was like, oh, okay, so that's how we have all of that dimension down here, a little bit up here, but still like that rooted area, which makes me really excited. So grabbing this bigger piece here, and you'll see in here, definitely like that is a wide piece, right? So if you're sitting here and you're like, how is that color going to saturate through if they have a lot of density in this area right here? You can absolutely subsection, and then you can do this in two sections for your coloring or your highlighting or anything like that. But just know that this is going to be one section done the same way. So since this is so giant, we're going to subsection so we make sure that we get that perfect saturation of color throughout the hair. So in there, again, I'm going to give myself that lift. And for here, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do the outside corners, because on the interior of this hair is where typically light doesn't hit, right? So keeping this a little bit more of that natural effect, I'm just going to bring that on up to the sides, dip that into the middle a little bit, but keep that interior nice and dark for the hair. I'm going to lay that on down and do the one right on top of it in the same manner. So you'll see I want to keep all of that depth and darkness on the interior. And then here on the sides, this is where that hair is going to spill, and typically is where a guest is going to want to see that lightness as well. If you feel like your guest is like super light and bright, but maybe they don't feel like they are, definitely focus right around that hairline. And just by adding in a little bit of lightness is going to go a long way in them feeling that they're just like 10 times brighter than when they entered the salon.
So Jessica, could you do this technique with just like some of the shades that you just showed?
Absolutely, yeah.
Straight up.
Oh, absolutely. So depending on the canvas, right? Like, so if her hair might, already be blonde or level, 9 or 10 or 8 or above those levels for those colors, you can absolutely just take that, formula and do the same technique with that, which is super, I think, like fun and easy to do because, right, typically if we're coming out of summer and we have a lot of that blonde hair already, then the canvas might already be on there for us to be working with, for us to pop those colors on top of, which is super fun. Especially like with the color chameleon shades, if you have a canvas that's like a level 9 is when you're going to get like the best raw color from the pigments. However, even if they want more, maybe they want like a bright, impactful color, but they don't want it to be like at that level 9 bright, you can also put the color chameleon on darker levels and your shades will just shift and be a little bit deeper as well, which is super nice. So from there, again, you're just going to go just as we did below and do another little kind of like triangular V section and do the same thing right here, and then just that top section is going to be it for the hair. So I do love utilizing this, especially, in the salon if somebody, maybe just wants a little bit of a low light or a little bit more dimension in the hair too. So even though we're utilizing the 1032 just to kind of bring this up and clean the canvas, you can absolutely be depositing instead of, lifting too. So again, I'm going to kind of let that brush do my work for me. And where I place that color is really going to help me. So then later on, maybe if I am going to be, doing that like root drag or anything like that, I don't have to be trying to like take that out. It's already there for me with that line that I created, in this instance right here. And bring that.
Okay, great comments. Everyone's seeing warmer tones come back. And they're happy that they're embracing them.
I know, it's fun, right?
Yeah. Debbie said that we've been neutralizing warm blondes for so long, it took some time to look at those shades and turn off the brain that said it needed to be ash.
It is so funny that you say that, because like that's definitely where my head was at too. I was like, how, right? So like I really, really loved, especially for me, like, and Color Chameleon being, one of the newer, I guess, like, family members into Keune, um, I love utilizing it in a way that might be a little bit more natural than is expected, because I definitely feel like with those colors, my personal clientele behind the chair doesn't really lend to that. So I had to even like navigate my brain to be like, okay, how can I make these seem more natural? And that's how, especially with the clear and the yellow, just to kind of give that shift of warmth in there, really, really soft. And the same thing, like I love utilizing the reds and the maroons as well, on especially like levels like 6 and 7, and they're just really direct, impactful, and super beautiful, and just a little bit of like a brighter tone in a more natural way too. So I feel you, Debbie.
Yeah. So we have a question.
Yeah.
Would you consider this a retouch technique?
A retouch technique. I guess depending. Like, do you mean? I guess I need a little bit more of an elaboration on that. Like, can you go back to retouch it, or is this just like how you would label it? I suppose.
Let's
Oh wait.
let's see what our reaction is. Yep.
Oh wait. So again, just because that's so big, I'm going to subsection that out and go through right at that horizontal. And this is where, maybe I've had a pre-consultation with Emma here, and she wants the color to be a little bit higher up. So I am going to bring the color a little bit higher than I did below here, because now I know that I'm going to have the dimension.
So, Jess, what's your advice if you have to do a root touch-up on the guest as well? Process together or process apart?
Oh, that's a great question. So what if we had to do a root touch-up on the guest as well? Process together or process apart? If we're talking like a gray coverage retouch, I would definitely do the gray coverage, root touch up, and then I would absolutely go through and, either lift or deposit or whatever you were doing at the same time, because I do find the colors, like in Keune especially, blend so well together that I'm not going to have any like funky sort of like coverage issues in there. It's just going to be really, really soft, beautiful. It's also going to save you time. So say if you had to do a gray retouch with the Tinta, and then you were going through with the semi, on the ends to save you time so you don't have to process it in the bowl for another 20 minutes, just so you can have the 30 minutes with Tinta here, maybe 20 minutes with semi. You can either mist down the ends with water, or you can also mist down the ends with the Vital Nutrition Spray here. And the Vital Nutrition Spray is going to be really great, especially on blondes, because it's going to help to even out the porosity of your guest's hair. So it just allows that color to really get in there. And it's also a take-home product for your guest as well, so they can keep their canvas really healthy for you and them, right? So, yeah. But I could definitely...
Yeah, so we have a little more feedback on the question that we had. Is this a retouch technique? I think they're looking for more of a label.
Cool.
Like
so I would definitely say that this is more of a color melt technique. I definitely know that like with color melting, we typically have those like 2 to 3 colors that run through. So I'd say maybe like somewhere between a balayage and a color melt technique is what personally I would, call this for myself. I feel like it's definitely balayage because we are painting onto the hair, right? But then I do feel like it is also more of the color melt technique, because you are really just having more of that seamless blend in the hair, sort of like how we had like the ombres maybe like 2 or 3 years ago. It's just a softer version of that. So if you find like a cooler name for the technique, definitely share it with me. I'm like, I came up with my French press for the other one. I was like, yeah, all right, that's good. I'm good on that one.
Hit your quota.
But yeah, right. No, but that's a great question, right? Just to know how to label something for yourself. Cool. Thank you for that. So you'll see here, and you can absolutely put these in like saran, or you can put these in a foil. But I just kind of want to leave it open air so you guys can visually see the process of where that, where the colors lie, to give you that perfect seamless blend. So this is my absolute favorite part that we get to, is up in the front, because I feel like we're always doing a lot, right? And we're always like foiling and over foiling or over coloring, and then you're like, where did my dimension go? So by having these 2 front pieces here and then this piece, after that we just have 3 panels on each side to go through, which is super fun. So in here, we will grab that hair, and I'm going to, again, I'll be like standing like in front of my guest into it, because if I have this down and I'm applying this just, you know, more at that like vertical, I'm definitely going to have a harsher blend. So by giving a little bit of that over direction up into me, into my center, I'm going to go through here, give it that little bit of that lift. And if this is like her previous color, then what's really nice is we can just soften out that line just like in real time, right? Because I'm sure that you guys are looking at this mannequin and you're like, yep, I have guests who already might have a technique like that on their hair, so how do I shift them into, you know, that kind of softer color melt that, you know, we've been seeing coming through. So right there, since that's in front of the face, I will protect that down on a foil. And then close that on up there. I think something else that's really important too is working side to side in the colors. Even if we're doing like a deposit only, because I just like to like stay in that habit. So I just like everything to kind of like blend and marry. So instead of just going up the one side, I'll actually pivot around and do the same thing on the other side and work side to side when it comes to these styles. I think especially too if you are doing like a color melt with maybe like 2 or 3 colors, it keeps you like in the know and you just remember a little bit better on what was where, right? Any other questions you guys can think of out there?
Can you repeat the color that you're using?
Absolutely. So I'm utilizing the 1032 in our high lift series. So the 1032 is going to give me about 3 to 4 levels of lift with 30 or 40 volume, depending on what you utilize.
I think I missed. What developer are you using?
Oh, that's a great question. So the developer that I'm utilizing with Emma here is 30 volume because it's best utilized with either 30 or 40. So I just want to get a little bit of lift. I'm utilizing it almost just to kind of like clean up the blonde that's on here, just to kind of get it a little bit brighter, I guess is what I mean by like clean up. Get a little bit more of that warm tone into the blonde, but also have enough lift on the dimensional pieces that are running through her ends as well. So into here, depending on where your client parts their hair, so I have her cut so she's center. Now if your guest definitely wears more of like a left part or a right part, then all you'll do from here is wherever her part is, make sure that top of that triangle is on that. And then you might have like a heavier side, a more dense side, and then a less dense side of the hair, but you'll just kind of pivot that sectioning to whatever way that they part their hair. So for here, I'm just going to cut that down the middle and do the same thing with the color melt technique up front here. And what's really great too is this is a great way to like gloss hair either behind the chair or if you do glossing hair at the back bar in the bowl in the sink. This is a really great way just to kind of like gloss, get a little bit more of like a dimension to the hair and some way to just section it out so it sort of just like makes sense, if you will. So we're not just kind of like going in and throwing the toner over all of that hard work that you just did. Push this into there. Beautiful. And then one more on the other side. And same thing with the color melt application, just going right on up to the front because what we're talking about is giving her a little bit more of like that money piece that's on there. So I'll do that this way so you guys can kind of see and push that on over. So I'll start a little bit lower than where I want that color to end up and then just sort of go against the grain of the hair just to get that really, really soft blend. And I'll bring that forward so you guys can see it a little bit better. So you guys can see that soft blend that you'll get like at that root by just tapping it up and in like that. We'll put that in a foil as well. And give that that nice dimension on the ends. So real time behind the chair, I mean, I feel like even with this, like we kind of like talked about like the inspiration in the beginning, I don't know, probably like 10 or so minutes, right? So now we're like halfway through. I mean, so real time behind the chair, you could probably get this applied on in like 20 to 35 minutes, depending on how much hair they have, which is nice. Like I said, it's a really impactful way to get color into the hair. And it's going to look like you were on her like head for like 2 hours, like putting in foiling application, which is nice. So from here, what your next section is going to be is right off of the top of that triangle here. And you're going to end up going on a diagonal back all the way through that hair to get your first panel. What I definitely love about this is it ends up following sort of like that round of that head in the back. And what you'll see when we let this hair down is it's starting to marry right into my back sections. So you'll see here, I'll clip this away. So you'll see here that underneath piece that we have on the sides, that first like that back panel right here, when I let this down, this is what's going to marry these two pieces together. So how I know if I want more of that like seamless color melt is I'm going to take my diagonal. So when it goes down, I marry and meet right to that section there. So then she just has that like beautiful like flow. And you get a lot of like movement through color in the hair when you marry it that way as well. So there's not like a high and a low and a step and it breaks it apart for you. So here, like I said, I'm going to kind of visually see and know where to end on that. Take my color. I'm going to pivot her around this way if you guys don't mind, so I can see. I think you can see there too. Perfect. So what I'll do is just on that diagonal, make my brush kind of have those lines and do that work for me right there. And then I will just kind of like back comb against the grain to soften that. And then bring that all on down into her color. How's everyone doing? Good still out there? Any more questions? Or are we doing all right?
Yeah, we have one that just came in. Would
cool.
you ever consider leaving sections out?
Yeah,
between if a client wanted a very natural, subtle look.
That's a great question. So would I ever consider leaving panels out if they want more of a natural, subtle look? I think that definitely depends. Like if they still want dimension, like in the ends, if they still want to see maybe like different highs and lows and have those panels just through like, I say, where you grab your ponytail and like your ponytail end, if they want to see more dimension in there, then yes, you can definitely leave sections out to get more of like a highlight, low light feel. If they want their ends to be completely saturated and just to be like one color from here down, then I wouldn't leave any hair out. But what I do find is, as much as it seems like there's big sections and it's like a lot of color and a lot of hair, depending on your color choice as well, it can be super soft and natural looking, or it could be very like dynamic and impactful just on like your color option as well. I hope that answers your question. So then from there, again, on the top here, I'm always going to be working off of that point to the top of that triangle. So it's always going to be my guide on how I kind of like shift back. So we kind of had that diagonal back going this way. As I move up, I'm going to be like pivoting that. So you'll definitely notice that you're going to get more, I call it like a horizontal diagonal back. So the more that we end up going on that complete diagonal, we'll have a lot of that dimension. As we pivot on up, and if we get a little bit more horizontal, you're going to get a lot more color saturation as well when it spills down. So if they want an overall maybe like more solid like hair end result, then you're gonna have to, like I said, pivot up so it's more of a horizontal. If not, you can absolutely keep them more of those like real diagonal backs if you wish. So for her, we're gonna kind of like pivot up into that horizontal diagonal if you will. So you get more of that like little pie shape. And again, what you're going to see is that hair just spilling here. I know for me personally, I always sort of end up with this like little bit of an area where I'm like, wait, where'd the dimension go? Or how come I did all that work and nothing shows up? So by doing it in this way, you can really see like, okay, here's your first panel, here's your second panel. And again, now I'm going to be marrying right into this back section. So you'll see here, this is where the side hair meets that back hair. So when it falls, you're going to have that perfect like marriage of color again. So I'm going to go a little bit lower because this is the interior and I want to keep some dimension. So I won't be placing the color as high up as I did on that first panel around her face. I'll go a little bit lower. Same thing, letting that brush do the work for me. And then I'll just go through and I will just back comb that up to soften that out. And that's why, again, I love to utilize, like, especially in this instance, like the High Lift series, just because it's like so soft. It has that beautiful, like, creamy texture. And I don't know, it's just pretty brilliant. I mean, you could totally go in and utilize Freedom Blonde with this. You know, again, you could go in and do this with like a color chameleon or a semi or a tint application. So whatever your, you know, canvas is and whatever your guest wants, you can definitely customize it to them, which is fun. I just chose the 1032 because that was the mannequin I had, and I was like, yep, that's going to be the end result that I'm looking for. And then again, you'll end up just at the top with that last section on top here. So once you let that fall again, you're going to see that that's really going to be when she styles her hair, what starts to spill over into that back area. And I'm going to keep this one really on a diagonal sectioning because my end result that I want to see is just, again, that like spill of color that comes down and through the hair. Any questions out there? Doing good? Great.
Nope, just what your Instagram was, but the other Jessica from Bang Style already put it on there.
Oh, thank you, Jessica from Bang Style. And thank you, whoever wants to be my friend. I like new friends. It's always fun. And I'll definitely have like the formulas, and I did all of the like the Pantone like swatches and stuff too on there. So if like you're interested in like the peach nougat or like the tawny birch or anything like that, again, that's just kind of what I found for like formulation wise worked for me. There's definitely a couple ways that you can get there with the colors. And if you end up doing like a different formulation than me, I'd love for you to like share it because sharing's caring, and it's kind of fun to see like how everyone kind of works a little bit differently, like in their own creative realm, right? So again, working my way up, allowing that brush to do the work for me. Pushing that on up in the color. And then you'll see when that lays on down, soften that out in there in her blend. And then when that lays on down here, you'll get that perfect marriage into the back of that hair, and you won't have any of those, again, like kind of like spots that have been like missed to the hair. So there. And then all you have to do is the 3 panels that are left on the other side, and it's pretty like simplistic, right? Again, you're going to get a really big dynamic impact from doing this. And it's nice. You don't have to have like a million foils in the head for this, you know. I think it's kind of fun to like get out of our creative like way sometimes and do something different. So again, if you are just popping on, this is the benchmark mannequin, and you'll see that she definitely does have that, you know, kind of like spill of color, and it is super soft. So, you know, for whoever that was asking me if I would leave any of the ends out, I mean, this is definitely something that's a really soft end result, I think, utilizing this technique. So there she is. And again, this was with the 6.43 at her root in our semi, 6.43 with clear, equal parts, and then her ends were the color chameleon. I did 60 grams of clear with 4 grams of yellow. And I did that on top of, I sort of like lifted her up. She was a level 7, and I lifted her up with our 2000 with 20 volume, just to get like a little bit more brightness on her ends for the color. But I really love doing that, like just kind of putting like the tone and the character back in with the color chameleon and clear. And I'll do that as well with semi with the mixed colors, but I like doing it with the chameleon and clear because it's just more of that like direct pigment. Um, I don't know, it's a little bit like brighter, but if you want a little bit of a softer look, you could totally go like semi with clear and like 033 and get the same really beautiful result. That's what I do on my hair personally with the semi.
So, Jess, will the hair and the foils be brighter?
That's a great question. So the hair and the foils will definitely be a smidge brighter just because they are in like the foil packet. They do have that little bit of warmth in there. I'm kind of leaving these out just so you guys can see like visually that impact, because I feel so many times like when we put the foil on the hair, you're like, okay, great, wait, how does it look, right? So let me take out what one's been in the longest. I'll take this one out and we can kind of see. I feel like it'll be like a little brighter of an end result, but not major. I mean, you can even see that there on the ends compared to, you know, this top in here, that's sort of like by the air. With like up to 15 minutes of processing time on the 1032, if you still want to like see your end result visually, you can always go and do like a cling wrap as well, or like a clear transparency, and then you can wrap that up if you want to really visually see what you're doing in the hair as well, like as you're coloring it, if you will.
Don't you think that your product choice also contributes to that?
To it being lighter? Yes, yeah, absolutely. I mean, definitely your, you know, what your canvas is on the ends, and then the product choice, developer choice, all will play into that as well. I mean, I do find that even with the 1000, like the Special Blonde series, when I leave them open air, I mean, they're still really beautiful. Your product isn't really going to dry out on you or anything like that. So I'm like, I have all the confidence in the world that I'm going to get my beautiful levels of lift just like this as well. But it's also knowing your canvas too. Thanks for that, Jess. Cool. So going forward in here, same thing again. With her, we'll see like we have that little bit more of a rooted look into it. So what I'll do is I just kind of want to go in and like softly blend that out for her hair. So I'll start at the bottom, go in on my diagonal, and again, I know where I'm going to end because I'm going to be marrying that up to my back section there.
And are you fully saturating through each section?
I am, yes. So the question was, am I fully saturating through each section? Yes. If you find that, so up in here, like technically it'll be like 3 panels that you're doing. If you feel like the hair is a little bit more dense in a certain location, you can absolutely take that and subsection it. But what I am doing with the hair, that's why I'm like working through with my hands and just kind of like working the product through into the like middles and ends. And then I just have a nice little like towel and I'll wipe my hands off on here so it gets that full saturation top to bottom. Thank you for that question. So we definitely want an even canvas when she lifts, right? Perfect. So pushing that on up there, letting that down, and again, like in real time in a salon, again, you can either do your foils or you can have the you know, balayage film or anything like that as well to it. So that section there, that panel, is what I subsection because this section is just too thick for her hair. So going on through, and when I do that, I'm going to make sure that this is the same line as the one down here because I really want this to be one piece. I hope that makes sense.
Got a couple questions.
Yeah.
When you're ready.
Ready whenever.
They must have heard my 10-minute mark. What are the best classes to watch for transitioning from a traditional foil to a balayage?
Oh, that's a great question. So what are the best classes to watch when switching from a traditional foil to a balayage is the question. If you guys would love to, you could head over to keuneeducation.com and you'll see that we have a complete catalog of Facebook Lives just like this. And there are definitely different, I would say, anything you're really looking for on that aspect, different techniques, different styles, and I think that's definitely somewhere that you can definitely look for. Talk to your local distributor or leave it in the comments. And if it's not a class that we've covered for you, we can definitely make it one. But yeah, I think we have a whole lot of education on there that you'll be able to find, what you're looking for that for sure.
And then here's another question. How do you feel about painting 3000 series or Freedom Blondes into the ends if the client wanted really bright ends?
Okay, that's a great question too. So it's a little loaded. I'll try to not be my Italian self and I'll try to keep it short and sweet for you. So the question is, how do I feel about painting either the 3000 series or is it just any lighteners on there onto the ends for brighter ends? I definitely feel like, again, depending and knowing your canvas and knowing your product, I absolutely adore the 3000 series. However, if you are going to be utilizing, say, like 3025 or even like 3017 onto previously colored ends, don't forget that it is an oil-based bleach inside of a tube. So that might be not the best option to layer on top of already previously lightened hair on top of. You might get a little bit, because it does lift in tone, you will get whatever tone is in there onto those ends. So if you're looking to lighten, depending on your canvas, I definitely would recommend like spraying onto her ends first, the Vital Nutrition spray, just to get that porosity nice and clean. And then depending on, again, how her hair is, you could go for the Freedom, the Cream, Magic, or your Ultimate Blonde. Your Ultimate Blonde is going to give you your maximum amount of lift. So if she is already blonde, my go-to personally is usually like Freedom or Cream, just because I like their like even consistency that it gives me on previously lightened hair. Or honestly, try 2000, because 2000 I think is like a game changer, and people sort of end up like forgetting how much lift we can get out of it, which is up to 6 levels of lift, even on previously colored hair. So I hope that answered it, and it was a little short and sweet, not too long-winded. I was like, that was a big one. There was layers to that.
There's also a second part to her question.
Great.
So the second part to that is, could you even alternate the 1500 series in one foil and then 3000 or Freedom in another?
Oh, totally. Yeah, absolutely. So the question was, could you alternate, maybe the 15,000 series, the 1000 series, and Freedom Blonde into this application? 100%. Because, I feel like, I hope you're probably like thinking of a client right now. You're probably like, well, I could do this to Ashley, but maybe her ends underneath are really dark because we haven't highlighted it, and maybe this is really bright because we have. So you can absolutely choose different like color options to put on top to get your end result for your lift that you're looking for. Yeah, that's one of my favorite things to do. I think really in like a real life situation behind the chair too, because one product might give you like a little bit more of what you're looking for than the other, just on that specific hair. Just like I say, all gray isn't created equal, and I'll have like 2 or 3 formulas even sometimes just for my gray haired clients, because they'll be more resistant here than here. Same thing when it comes to lightening. You might just have a different need in a different area of the hair. So great question. Thank you for that. Yeah. Any other questions? Cool. Awesome. So yeah, so there she is. Again, super easy breezy, I think. I don't know, I hope you guys think too. Like I say, and people are probably like, maybe. But what I love about it is it's going to really give me that full saturation of the ends, and it's going to give me a lot of dimension that I'm looking for. And I think you can take this and really utilize it into any colors you're looking for, especially when shifting into more of like those fall tones that we were talking about before. So again, I definitely went a little bit more on the like blonde side, getting a little bit more from the cooler blonde into that warmer blonde for this Emma. And then on this Emma over here, I utilized our Tinta 4.15 for her base with 10 volume. This is all on natural level 7 hair. And then for her little like color blocked pieces, I utilized 2000 to lift, because I just want a little bit more brightness. And then I ended up putting on the Tawny Birch semi application on there. So I can definitely put this on my Instagram if you guys are interested in her formula there. Cool. Any other questions? You guys doing good out there? This goes fast. It always goes fast. So what's super great too is, of course, after we always do like our end colors, we always want to give our guests great products to bring home. So I'm super excited. If you guys want to tune in this upcoming Wednesday, we're doing a spotlight. Well, I'm not doing a spotlight, but there will be a spotlight with our Keune educators, and it's all going to be about Keune U. So Keune U is our next big launch here in the U.S. I definitely know I see a couple people like from Norway, so you guys might have it already there. But I'm super excited about Keune U, and it comes with gorgeous, gorgeous tones to mix and marry into your client's shampoos and conditioners to really keep up on maybe like those coppers or those reds. So if that's something that you're interested in or your clients, definitely tune in. If you're not available at 1 p.m. on Wednesday, the great news is you can always replay these, and you can always find them on, again, keuneeducation.com for the replay on that. So definitely stay tuned. It is very exciting. Any other questions out there, Jess? Are we doing all right? That was good. That was cool. Very nice. Awesome, guys. Well, if there's no other questions, I know we're a little bit ahead of schedule here, but if we don't have anything else, I think I'm super happy to be able to share that with you. I hope you guys found a little bit of inspiration either for your own mood board or a little bit into fall colors and an easy way for us to transition into, the new trends of, money pieces and color melts. And if you utilize it behind the chair, definitely tag me in a post because I love to see all of your guys' beautiful work. Yeah, and thanks for tuning in, and I hope to see you next time. Thanks, guys.